of the disaster risk management cycle. The government of the Bahamas recently passed the Disaster Risk Management Act, which I am told will position the country as one of the most progressive in advancing such legislative and policy measures within the Caribbean. This team's goals align with this act and the Bahamas government's overall aim to offer comprehensive disaster risk management and health risk preparation and response. They will coordinate effective practices and other learning experiences for the government and subsequently to other Caribbean country offices and their stakeholders. There will also be many opportunities to ensure that the IDB's work in the disaster and health risk management sectors promotes social inclusion and equality by identifying and involving persons who are vulnerable because of their socio-economic status, location, sex, age, gender, and other dividing variables. The country team will support the IDB's efforts to boost productivity and innovation in the disaster and health risk management sectors by assisting governments to identify career paths for these new sectors of development, as well as innovative and useful means of strengthening them. The bank is committed to increasing capacity to manage disaster and climate risks, pursuing opportunities for climate resilience and adaptation to climate impacts, developing long-term decarbonization pathways, and to ensuring an inclusive transition toward low greenhouse gas emissions and climate resilient development. The P2RCT's activities will help us to work towards achieving these goals in the region. In closing, I would like to emphasize the need for Caribbean countries to collaborate and support each other in disaster and health risk management. We all have more in common in terms of exposure to natural disasters, more in common in terms of developmental challenges, and more in common in terms of culture and understanding than with any other region. Let us work together to identify opportunities to grow and share our experiences so that we can support each other. The sustainability of the Caribbean region depends on it. Thank you for being open and providing your expertise on this crucial issue for the region.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to stand now and welcome with me the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Philip Brave Davis. He will be our next speaker, providing the keynote address.
Morning, please have a seat. I suspect I'm, as I said, at the nick of time, just as I walked in. Let me first of all say good morning to each and every one of you here. And it is indeed my pleasure to be here. Let me acknowledge your distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I start off by reminding that many years ago, in the move towards globalization, we were often reminded that no man is an island. That quote is taken from a poem written 400 years ago this year by the English poet John Donne. It is as true now as it was then. No man is an island. In fact, with integration of the global economy, the expansion and accessibility of air travel, the advent of the internet, Among other things, the world has never been more interconnected. And so, in 2023, the question for our time is, how do we address both challenges and opportunities when so much of what we can do is affected by the actions of others? As it is with the advances in human society, so it is in nature. If ever we needed reminding that we share one planet, one environment, and one home, the landfall of Hurricane Dorian in 2019 and the rapid spread of COVID-19 virus in 2020 provided more than enough evidence of our shared destiny. Each of these two cataclysmic events prompted a series of crises: a health crisis, an economic crisis, and a crisis in governance. Taken together, the effects were amplified. Hurricane Dorian resulted in unprecedented tragedy, in addition to more than $3.4 billion in loss and damage. The cost in physical and mental health is not easily quantified, but as we know from our families, friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens, the impact was substantial. The financial and human costs associated with the pandemic have not yet crystallized, as the virus is still present. But we know it has and continues to present a seismic shock to global health and the international economy. But this was not the end of the global challenges. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, disruption to supply chains, skyrocketing inflation, and the lingering threat of global recession mean that the threats to health, the economy, and governance still remain. Around the world, we see an increase in refugees fleeing climate disasters. Economic inequalities threaten hard-earned stability, and democracy itself is threatened as citizens' trust in governance, experts, and institutions is diminished. With so many urgent and consuming problems to face, some countries have already started to roll back on their commitments to combating climate change in favor of addressing short-term crises. For example, in spite of pledges to reduce carbon emissions, some European countries have returned to burning coal in order to satisfy their energy needs. And all the while, here in the Bahamas, our inherent vulnerabilities remain. We are still a low-lying archipelago, one of the top 10 countries most vulnerable to rising sea levels and other impacts of climate change. Our debt burden remains high, in significant part due to these climate risks, including the need to regularly rebuild homes, businesses, and infrastructure after devastating hurricanes. Our cost of borrowing prices in the risk of future hurricanes, so we are, in a sense, already paying a high price for the intensifying weather patterns of tomorrow. And now it is being reported that the El Niño climate phenomena will return later this year in 2023, making it very likely the world will exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. The hottest year in recorded history was in 2016, driven by a major El Niño in that year. Our region is expected to experience heat waves and much higher than usual rainfall. Such conditions not only lead to more extreme weather events, but also provide fertile ground for the spread of disease. This is a sobering thought. Ladies and gentlemen, I expect that none of this will be news to you, as you are on the front line of our response to these circumstances. And I do not make these points to sensationalize a doomsday scenario. But I recite these facts because it is too easy to become complacent about the size and scale of the threats we face. This is an understandable way of coping. Nevertheless, complacency is not an option. The urgency and importance of what you do has never been greater. Since coming into office over a year ago, my government has made advocacy on climate change our #1 issue in foreign policy. We have done so because the logic is simple and built on 3 clear facts. Firstly, climate change is the result of carbon emissions released by other countries over many decades. We desperately need them to reduce their emissions. Secondly, we in the Bahamas disproportionately suffer from the impacts of climate change to such an extent that it poses an existential threat. Left unchecked, our island nation will struggle to survive. Thirdly, we simply do not have the resources for this new climate era. We need partnerships in order to adapt to these changing circumstances, to make ourselves more resilient, and to continue our national development. The interconnectedness of the response that is needed is clear from the many fronts on which we will be impacted. Rising sea levels will cause our islands to disappear. Drought will limit our food security. The loss of biodiversity and the rise of microbial resistance means that new diseases and pandemics may emerge, and warmer waters are likely to bring more catastrophic storms like Hurricane Dorian. Climate change is not just an issue for the Ministry of Environment. Epidemics and pandemics are not just issues for the Ministry of Health. And disaster management is not just an issue for NEMA or Disaster Recovery Agency. These are whole-of-government issues which require a whole-of-government approach. I borrow. No ministry is an island. This is why I have established a climate change environmental advisory unit in my office to support a whole-of-government work on the issue of climate change. And this is why we moved to have a broad level of representation at COP27 so as to ensure that key agencies across government, including health, climate and disaster, are integrated into national solutions to support our people. It is vital that climate change, disaster risk reduction, and health risk management be tackled using an integrated approach. As the pandemic wanes, we have to ensure that the targets of the Paris Agreement remain a central priority. Ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely grateful to the IDB for all the support they have provided and continue to provide in helping us to move forward on these issues. The international multilateral support is proof positive of the point I make this morning. That is, only through interconnected action that we will be able to address interconnected challenges. My colleagues who are participating in today's event will provide more detail of what we are doing within their Pacific portfolios. However, I will make brief mention of a few things. In health, my government continues to implement a number of critical projects. Even before Dorian and before the pandemic, the sector was under severe pressure, with the infrastructure, staff, and services unable to fully meet the needs of the Bahamian people. We are moving ahead to build new hospitals. We have expanded physical capacity in our clinics and human capacity by hiring more doctors and nurses. Mindful of the need to treat nurses fairly and respectfully so that they practice their calling at home, we have also signed new industrial agreements with the Bahamas Nurses Union, which includes salary increases and, more importantly, retention bonuses. We are also ramping up our prevention efforts as part of our wellness program. Our Minister of Health, Dr. Michael Dowell, will provide further details about our various initiatives. While we are making progress, it is still insufficient to make us fully resilient in the face of the challenges I have highlighted. Therefore, in your deliberations, I invite you to consider what further steps might be taken. In the realm of disaster management, we are rationalizing the activities of NEMA and the DRA to help make them more efficient and effective. We have launched a home assistance repair program in Grand Bahama, Abaco, Bimini, and New Providence, which will hopefully provide much overdue relief to many. We also continue to oversee debris management sites in hurricane-affected areas on the island of Grand Bahama and Abaco, and are in the process of constructing a new hurricane shelter for the island of Abaco. The recently launched Youth Guard initiative has been set up so that in the event of a national disaster, young Bahamians will be able to participate in every part of the National Disaster Plan, from prevention and mitigation through to recovery. We are still a long way away from doing all that we need to do to protect ourselves and to be able to maximize our response to natural disasters, but we are making progress. In terms of the economy, we are continuing with our efforts to secure international funding so that we can afford to do what is necessary to keep ourselves safe. The agreement at COP27 by the carbon emitting nations to set up a fund to cover loss and damage in countries like ours is hugely significant. When you consider that the loss and damage in developing countries could be in the region of $340 billion per year by 2030, you understand what an important commitment that was. And that agreement was only reached because of the advocacy efforts of many vulnerable states like ours. This is where leadership and visibility pay off. The credibility of who we are and what we are saying and doing lend persuasive weight to securing that deal. Our efforts to establish trade in carbon credits and our plans to transition to reliance on renewable energy should also significantly help our economic position so that we are able to pursue national development at the rate and scale which we all aspire to. Ladies and gentlemen, my charge to you today is that you move forward with the boldest of ambitions. The connections fostered and brokered in this interdisciplinary event are exactly what we need for our whole of government approach. We are our brother's keepers, and so, more than ever before, we need each other. Thanks so much for inviting me this morning, and I wish you well in your work.
The Prime Minister's passion and advocacy on the issue of climate change globally has been duly noted. And I want you to know that we broke agenda and protocol this morning because the Prime Minister really took the time to come and address this forum while he has shortly a speech to give at the Business Outlook. And so we want to, again, say thank you to the Prime Minister for making that effort. Yes, sir. I didn't say, but my name is Shivago Lang, and I'm the Executive Director and Senior Policy Fellow at the Government and Public Policy Institute, the University of the Bahamas. And I have the privilege of working with some exceptional professionals there, one of whom I am now going to call upon to address you, Dr. Maria Woodside-Oriaki, our Vice President of Academic Affairs at the University of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Protocol already being established, good morning. I am so pleased to join you all this morning for this critically important workshop hosted by the IDB and the University of the Bahamas called We Ideate P2CR CT Symposium. Back in October of last year, many of us would have been present for the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction Summit, where we welcome local stakeholders such as the Office of the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Environment Health Services, the DEPP, NEMA, the DRA, as well as international stakeholders like the Hawaiian Pacific Disaster Center, to look at increasing the availability of multi-hazard early warning systems and increasing access to disaster risk information. That summit proved to be an exceptional initiative that addressed current threats that small island nations such as the Bahamas face. One can hardly talk about disaster risk reduction and interventions without talking about the clear and present danger of climate change. As the climate grows warmer, hazards like hurricanes and cyclones become more powerful, devastating, and deadly. All of us have seen and many have endured the devastation, the loss, and the anguish left in their wake. It is a threat that demands consistent, coordinated, and strategic action across all our major systems, including academia, government, scientific and research institutions, and non-governmental organizations. Only with effective stakeholder collaboration can we develop comprehensive and effective strategies to mitigate and adapt to the effects of climate change. As centers of intellectual inquiry, knowledge transfer, and the drivers of new knowledge, institutions of higher learning are compelled to provide leadership and sustainable interventions to reduce the devastating impact on human lives, health, and resources. University of the Bahamas takes this as a sacred responsibility and continues to prioritize partnering with organizations that are aligned with our national development goals. With the support of our faculty, students, and researchers, UB will continue to focus on delivering the competencies and supporting careers that prepare our human capital to manage and exercise disaster risk management and reduction. I am so proud of the partnership that UB has forged with the IDB to assist in bringing this initiative to life. It is the hard work, dedication, and love of country we all have that will continue to inspire and motivate us in our efforts to build a more resilient and sustainable future for every Bahamian. I often say that if you want to invoke meaningful change and progress, it requires a level of shared visioning amongst the stakeholders. And in this spirit, I especially appreciate the concerted efforts of Prime Minister Davis and his government as leaders in supporting these critically important events and workshops that promote capacity building and collaboration amongst our nation's best and brightest. In closing, I again wish to express my sincere thanks to every individual and organization involved in the planning of this event. Thank you all for being a part of today's ceremony, and I look forward to the valuable discussions and the insights that will come from this gathering. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oriaki. If you ever wanted proof that this is a small country, the speaker that I am about to introduce happens to be the cousin of my wife, the Honorable Miles Lorota, Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Vargo, and to think I was going to throw that in and you beat me to it. The Prime Minister in his absence, parliamentary colleagues, IDB representatives, including Ms. Daniela Marquez and other IDB officials, government officials, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning. Naomi Klein, a Canadian social activist and filmmaker, penned these words: "Underneath all this is the real truth we've been avoiding. Climate change isn't an issue to add to the list of things to worry about. It is a civilizational wake-up call. It is a powerful message spoken in the language of hurricanes, floods, droughts, extinctions, telling us that we need a new way to share this planet. These words highlight our reality and the need for climate action. As a vulnerable small island developing state, the Bahamas' most significant consequences of climate change are sea level rise and intensifying hurricanes. Ladies and gentlemen, September 1st, 2019 is a day that is forever etched in Bahamian history as a cataclysmic Category 5 Hurricane Dorian made landfall on central Abaco and East Grand Bahama. The events of September 1st, 2019 is a reminder to us that we are indeed in a war to secure our nation's sustainability and longevity. In the 5th Assessment Report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change underscored that intensified hurricanes are likely to result in large-scale loss and damage to individuals, livelihoods, communities, infrastructures, and countries. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our reality, a worrisome one, but one which we must, with our collective experience and expertise, have to deal with. History will not judge us based on the strength and magnitude of these tropical cyclones, but on our response to ensure the sustainability of our nation for future generations. To fight this battle, we must consider various measures to ensure our resilience in facing this new reality. In this regard, the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, is to be commended for spearheading the establishment of the Preparedness, Recovery, and Reconstruction Country Team, P2RCT, to enhance the government's efforts in preparing for, responding to, and recovering from disasters through policy and government initiatives. Today, we are here to mark the beginning of yet another technical cooperation focused on topics from integrated risk management, health risk management, disaster recovery to risk communication. These areas are relevant and timely in supporting the knowledge based on all stakeholders. I would like to quote Dr. Aaron Hughley of the PDC in a visit to the PDC last year, who said that the days are gone for the old fire chief to be in charge of disaster risk management. There was once a time in this country where NEMA would pull together the government agencies on an impending storm. We are far beyond that. I would like to acknowledge the President and my predecessor in Pinewood, who I have told this story many times, Allison Maynard, KC, that while in Hawaii, I was presumptuous enough to volunteer her services for a joint memorandum between the University of the Bahamas and the University of Hawaii. And in the space of about 5 months, we went from a thought in my head, a discussion at PDC, to us signing our agreement in October. And I would like again to publicly thank Ms. Maynard Gibson for her contribution towards making that a reality. And so along with the government's new legislation that we concluded last year that will take effect this year, we are moving towards a regime of which we would put the Bahamas in cutting-edge technology, moving away from those ideas and moving towards not only being reactive, but being proactive. Because it's not, disaster risk management is going to be 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And as we put our infrastructure together for the oncoming hurricane season, we basically have 6 months to implement a lot of these things. And that legislation, we were provided with a technical lawyer, of which the IDB provided to the Bahamas, cost-free to us. And that individual had worked tirelessly in allowing us not only to present that piece of legislation, but provide it in a timely manner, because it was time sensitive and funding is tied to the legislation that we pass. And so again, we see the works of the IDB in assisting this small island nation as we move towards moving disaster risk management into another level, as we say. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the phenomenal American author and lecturer Helen Keller who penned it well when she wrote, "Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much." Forums like this allow us to share our experiences and learn from one another as we stand in this war against Mother Nature's fury as a united front. I am confident that this symposium will provide us with further insights to further advance the Bahamas disaster risk management agenda, and therefore look forward to its outcome. I thank you.
I didn't marry our next speaker's cousin, but he did follow me in an office, both as Minister of Economic Affairs and Minister of State for Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator, the Honorable Michael Halkitis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lang, and good morning to all. I am pleased to be here this morning at the opening of this symposium on climate and health crisis risk management. The Inter-American Development Bank and the government of the Bahamas over the years have forged a mutually beneficial partnership that has endured and grown. This cooperation has taken the form of project and policy-based financing, as well as technical assistance and cooperation. In this context, the Ministry of Finance requested support from the bank to address risk management in the areas of climate, natural disaster, and health crises. In response to this request, the bank will execute a technical cooperation project in the amount of $500,000. The project will, amongst other things, enhance capacity building in relevant government agencies to support the introduction of policies aimed at responding effectively in delivering disaster relief and health services during catastrophic circumstances. And the bank will assume the task as the executing agency. I wish to express gratitude to the bank for its expeditious response to this request. This symposium is timely, particularly considering the emphasis and resources that the government of the Bahamas is channeling in the areas of climate change, health, and disaster risk management. I have no doubt that the discussions on relevant topics will prove to be fruitful and invariably give rise to the establishment of thematic groups that will be tasked with advancing the subject matter in the local arena and, if deemed necessary, expanding regionally and internationally. In the context of a strong economic recovery in the Bahamas, but as well cognizant of the forecast for moderating economic growth and other economic headwinds, it is important that we plan and manage in light of these economic risks, but as well as risks related to climate and health. We are fully aware that we are susceptible to the worsening impact of climate change, as well as the debilitating levels of chronic non-communicable diseases which impact our health and inevitably our productivity. I wish you all the best in your deliberations, and I wish to affirm that the Ministry of Economic Affairs stands available to assist in advancing the conclusions that come out of this forum to the appropriate institutions in support of the next steps. Thank you once again, and good morning.
A sweet spot in multilateral work is when an institution like the IDB aligns itself with the priorities, aims, and objectives of a country. And I think you can hear from the discussion so far that this is a perfect alignment. The climate change risk and health risk issues align with the resources of the bank, and I can only see good things coming out of that, especially given the discussions to be held today. So the next speaker was my doctor. That's right, my doctor, and is now the Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honorable Dr. Michael Darville. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Shivago. I remember those days in Grand Bahama, and as I stepped in today, I saw a lot of familiar faces from Grand Bahama, and so this particular forum is not Nassau-centric, but it incorporates many of our islands throughout our archipelago. Standing on the established protocol, I must acknowledge our head table, but more specifically my team from the various sectors of the Ministry of Health, including the PHA, some of our doctors from the Princess Margaret Hospital and the Rand Memorial Hospital, my team at the Ministry of Health, my team at National Health Insurance, and of course our robust team throughout the islands from the Department of Public Health. To our esteemed organizers, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I join my colleagues in wishing you good morning. We are at the start of a new year, and 7 years away from 2030, the year we must reach our Sustainable Development Goals and the full implementation of the Sandy Framework of Disaster Reduction. Therefore, on that backdrop, I'm truly honored to be here this morning at the beautiful Baha Resort, always well prepared and display excellent service for many of our forums. I'm thankful for the opportunity to bring brief remarks in the commencement of this critical national workshop under the theme Climate Change and the Importance of Disaster and Health Risk Management in the Bahamas. I believe we are here today also to strengthen the capacity of the Ministry of Health and Wellness and other key government agencies responsible for the administration of primary care and health risk management, including stakeholders with the responsibility for disaster preparedness, response, reconstruction, and recovery. We are also here today to determine how to protect and safeguard lives, but particularly the lives of the most vulnerable in our society. I believe that this technical workshop, supported by the IDB in conjunction with the University of the Bahamas, when implemented over the next year, is not only strategic, but has a dual purpose. First and foremost, to strengthen the technical capacity as a nation, and secondly, to collaboratively develop an integrated and sustainable risk management framework that considered both disasters and health risk protocols. Together, we must consider many things. And a good example of what we must consider, we must try to accomplish through planning, is a typical scenario that we see in health. A pregnant mother on a family island facing an incoming hurricane who is prepared to evacuate and need a well-oiled, sustainable social safety net that we must have in place to smoothly receive her and her family while ensuring that our healthcare system is able to support a risk-free delivery. Another good example is that of an elderly male suffering from Alzheimer's. He is on a limited pension with little family support and must be airlifted to the capital for tertiary healthcare services without going through massive complications that he currently exists with heart failure that cannot be handled at one of our primary healthcare facilities in the family islands. Providing such comprehensive services will call for the interoperable multi-sectorial approach to promote systematic cooperation, integration, coherence between disaster and health risk management. These two medical illustrations prove that going forward, we will require resiliency, social development, sustainable manpower resources, and funding to effectively deal with the devastating effects of climate change and its impact on local migration, as well as health delivery systems across our complex chain of low-lying islands. Ladies and gentlemen, the lessons learned from Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic underscores the importance of strengthening the resilience of our healthcare system, not only in New Providence, Grand Bahama, but throughout our family islands. I can safely say that my ministry is actively addressing identified deficiencies in respect to health policy, human resources for health, climate-resistant health infrastructure, health research, electronic health records, telemedicine platforms, as we resolve to identify financing for health system strengthening to mitigate the destructive impact brought on by climate change. As we continue to seek finances for health system strengthening, we at the Ministry of Health and Wellness would like to thank the IDB for its vision, financial and technical support. To date, we are executing a $60 million loan for 2 strategic loans that is crucial for the direction we're heading in, and is also strengthened by grant funding in the amount of $5.4 million from the European Union Caribbean Investment Facility infrastructure. Under the IDB loan funding programs, my ministry is in the advanced planning stages for the construction of 9 climate-resilient clinics in our family islands and the renovation of 17 other clinics, as well as the relocation and strengthening of the country's national reference lab here in the capital. All these advances require special climate and energy consideration. It's important to note that all of these IDB-funded infrastructural projects will receive EDGE certification with minimum standard of 20% improvements in energy, water, and innovative building materials. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here today with my technical teams to support this critical and necessary process of collaboration with the Disaster Management Unit, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Ministry of the Environment and Natural Resources, the Department of Social Services, the National Energy Management Agency, the Disaster Reconstruction Agency, the Bahamas Meteorological Office, the Ministry of Public Works and Utilities, the Department of Local Government, private sector partners, local leaders, and change agents across our archipelago. There is no question that the Bahamas is one of the most vulnerable countries in Latin America and the Caribbean region to climate hazard events. In the past 2 decades, from 2000 to 2020, the country has been hit with 15 major disasters. You may recall Hurricane Joaquin in 2015, Hurricane Matthew in 2016, Irma in 2017, and we cannot forget Hurricane Dorian in 2019, the second strongest hurricane ever observed in the Atlantic Ocean. More than 76,000 residents were affected, and some 10,000 people were evacuated from Grand Bahama and Abaco. Shortly after the hurricane, my staff from the Sandilands Rehabilitation Center, the Public Hospitals Authority, the Bahamas Psychological Association, and a number of local and international NGOs were dispatched to the affected area where more than 3,000 children, 3,000 adults received medical and psychological support. While the direct damage to hard infrastructure and housing from this event accounted for an excess of $2.5 billion. If that was not enough, the Bahamas would experience its first pandemic in 2020. We experienced 4 waves of COVID-19 from June 2020 to December 2021. By January 2022, the Bahamas accounted to 32,238 confirmed COVID cases, 731 deaths, losing in excess of more than $9.5 billion. The lessons learned from the pandemic and the devastating impacts from natural disasters brought on by climate change underscores the importance of strengthening the resilience of our public healthcare system, but more specifically, my ministry's ability to adequately respond to public health emergencies while continuing to deliver essential healthcare services across the length and breadth of the Bahamas. But good news. Despite all of our challenges, I am pleased to report that the Bahamas was able to qualify for the EU CARA Forum grant funding under project entitled Developing and Strengthening a Climate Resilient Health System. These ongoing projects will add to the future development of risk assessment protocols, surveillance, and early warning systems. Therefore, with this IADB Health and Disaster Risk Management Project and Symposium, the Bahamas will have the opportunity to increase capacity to manage disasters and climate risks, pursue additional opportunities for climate resilience and the adaptation of climate impacts, develop long-term decarbonization pathways, and ensure that a just and inclusive transition towards lowering greenhouse gas emissions and the implementation of strategies for climate resilient development. Finally, before taking my seat, I must reinforce my ministry's commitment to this project and to say once again that we at the Ministry of Health and Wellness fully understand that having an integrated, effective healthcare emergency and disaster risk management system is essential to our national development. The implementation of national strategies to advance related sustainable development goals is paramount going forward as a country. That will support the following objectives. 1, gender equality and inclusion along with the empowerment of individuals and communities, including women, which is essential for effective management of climate disaster and health crisis in a central building resilient impact assessment team. Secondly, producing research and data to create awareness around gender diversity, dimensions of advancement of cross-cutting issues while strengthening institutions to enhance social sector planning and execution capabilities. 3, the developing of a plan for the disaster risk management strategic framework that defines the priorities and activities that will effectively strengthen governance. And 4, developing a change management strategy to support local leaders and change agents to be active in implementing the integrated risk management activities. Developing a massive open online course to educate public officials in the various collaborating agencies in order for us to achieve the goals that we speak about. Colleagues and partners, I believe that the feedback we will all glean over the next few hours will assist us in development and implementation of an innovative, integrated risk management system that we can be proud of. I look forward to receiving an update from you that will help us to chart an effective course forward. Once again, on behalf of my ministry and our team at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I thank you for this opportunity to speak here today and success with this symposium and workshop. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ministers. Going forward, you'll note that we have a couple of plenary sessions before lunch and then some breakout sessions. If you have your agendas, you can take note of the rooms in which they'll be held, the plenaries in this room, these rooms, and then the breakout sessions, the health risk management in the Bimini Room 1 and the disaster risk management breakout room, the Bimini Room 2. I do want to note that if you have any questions during the question and answer period, the way to get those questions in is through the menti.com, that's MENTI.com, and you use the code that's on your agenda, 4298-9153. We're going to have an abbreviated coffee break. So make the coffee and bring it to the table. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a coffee break and then we'll resume thereafter. Let me just ask you to allow our head table to leave. Thank you.
Hello? Natalie? Hello? Okay. Let me. Okay. The thing is that the microphone I'm using a cell phone, and for the video, I would like I I I have another connection through my computer. So what I can do is I can try to share my presentation. Uh, I mean, I can also turn on the video in my cell phone so that you can check that as well. But I'll be sharing my presentation through my computer. As soon as you let me know, I'll do that. Good. Shall I share my presentation now to make sure that that works as well?
Hi, Sergio.
Oh, hi.
Sorry, we're testing audio.
It's
Can you
okay.
hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you want me to share my presentation with you just to make sure
Yes.
that you can see my
Yes.
screen? Okay.
Yes, you can put on your presentation.
Okay.
We don't have anybody from health in the press conference.
It's all
Okay.
done.
Can
Okay,
you
so
see
it's
it?
okay.
It looks good. It looks good, Sergio.
Okay,
It
great.
looks good. Unfortunately, I don't know if you're going to be able to. Yes, we see it.
Sorry?
We can hear him too. I guess the
We can hear and
another
see you.
host. I just didn't put on the host.
So how is he going to hear Sarita asking questions?
She uses it to read that.
We're just trying to figure out how we can get the moderator to hear you.
Okay.
Where was Sarita be? Where was she be?
Sarita will be at the podium.
Will we get a council registration?
Yes, she should.
We remind line to ask them to
Ask them for the registration forms, please. They need to collect them. The people doing work.
Should I tell V.S. Smith to leave then?
To leave.
He's at the table.
He's there apparently. He didn't respond, so I don't know.
This is probably why he
He
just.
doesn't have to be there.
Okay, let me tell him.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Can you get those registration sheets from them, please? Like the admin team. Linda, Chantal, Edina, in the front. Yeah, I don't know where they have them, but we need to keep them here.
Eventually, people to get them. But they were telling people to sign up.
Ask them to get them, please. I don't want them to get lost.
And then
I
they're
don't know why they
So
did
now
that.
I have an idea. Sarita just could join with a phone. Just have a mic open
Okay, I'll give her my phone.
and she'll have to mute the mic.
It went very well this
In the background, it's crazy, but it looks good.
The purpose of that's very good.
Okay, Sergio, just give us a few minutes. We'll let you know when we're ready. We're working out a solution, a temporary solution for, sorry, I'm just turning the camera. We're working out a temporary solution for the audio.
Or I can just have my mic open
Okay.
since.
Okay,
Sure.
thanks.
Hold on 1 second.
Hey. Hey, yeah. Sergio, give us a thumbs up if you could hear us. Yeah, yeah. 1, 2, check. Check, 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 check.
So that's audio. That's just an audio in this interference. I'm trying to see if it works.
So, yeah, 1, 2. Hey, yeah, 1, 2. 1, 2. Device. Yeah, I just want to see what it's. Okay. 1, 2. Hey, yeah. 1, 2, 1. Headphone. 1, 2. Headphones. Okay. Hey, yeah. 1, 2. 1, 2. Hey, 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 hey. Yeah. 1, 2. Hello, hello. 1, 2. You still on the Zoom? Check. Hey, yeah, 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 yeah. 1, 2. Check. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Hey, yeah. 1, 2. Hey, yeah. One, two. Hey, yeah. Man is reading it, but I'm not getting anything. 1, 2. Hey, yeah. 1, 2. You still you still connected to the meeting? Hey, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have two times to speak or just one?
Well,
Just
you
to-
will introduce your projects.
The project or the topic? I just want to see whether we have two entries or one, because if I
You're
have
gonna-
one, I concentrate everything in 5 minutes. You have two entries. I
Well,
have to do-
what you are going to do is
I prefer one, but if we have two,
Yes.
if
Well,
we
I
have,
have kind of general background, and then I have the project. So that's my question: is should I do the general background on transport, and then for the question, for the questions, the
or we
project?
can have one entry or two. Basically, we're
Well,
gonna address us.
one entry, one time where you will share briefly on the work of your projects, right? And then I have those questions. Remember those 3 specific questions? I don't know if you saw that email. I think you were copying it. But these are the 3 specific questions that I will ask the panel overall, and not individually. These questions here are what I will ask you overall, and
So
whoever.
we don't need to respond from energy, basically.
No.
I could keep it one entry.
Yeah, and whoever.
But when she comes back, it's for the entire panel.
It's for the entire
So
panel.
it's not.
So you can chime in.
I can chime in, but if somebody else from here or
Look, I think
Damage
the way.
speaks.
Listen, the question is set up so that you can talk about the projects. I think we should each talk a little bit generally about our sectors, like transport, climate change, and say the conceptual information. And then when we go to the questions, we talk about the projects.
I think it's better.
Okay. Well, the thing is now, you have individually, each of you, 5 minutes to
For the first
for,
entry.
for the first entry, right? And the idea is that, okay, starting from the beginning, the idea is that Sergio and Ricardo, who I don't see, Ricardo is here, right? Oh, there he is, will frame the topics of disaster risk management and health risk management, right? From that, you all individually would be asked to share briefly on the work of your projects, especially as it relates to this country, because they want the audience to know what you all are doing here. Any aspects of your project that's related to the climate change agenda for the country, bring it
That's the
to the
first
forefront.
entry.
Bring it to the forefront. But let them know what your project is about, what the goals are.
It's going to take more than 5 minutes if we elaborate too much. It won't work. It's too
The
long.
objective. Just bring the objective.
We will relate to directly to resilience.
Right. And then-
Because otherwise, 5 minutes is going to. If I tell the project in 5 minutes, it takes 5 minutes. But I prefer to tell a little bit about resilience in the sector and what we're doing.
Well, can you say what the objective of your project is and how much?
Do they need to know that? I mean, it's really important for them the amount of money.
Well, you don't want. Well, okay.
I don't think so. I think this resilience energy sector. Yeah, the money is not. I think we're trying to relate what are we doing for the sector of resilience. So I can speak to that.
But just going back to the question, is it better if we just have one entry per person?
I think one entry is perfect because otherwise it's going to.
You're going to be running out of time.
Well,
I am afraid.
when you say one entry, you mean put the questions in?
You present us all, you present the topics, and each panelist speaks, and then we wrap up.
Okay, and then you don't say anything specific about your project.
Yeah, we do
because
it in
this
the
is
entry. We do it in the entry. You give us 6 minutes instead of 5.
okay.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do because I have 4 hours to prepare for this. I'm not going to change what I'm doing because it's going to stress me out. I'm going to talk generally about the impacts of climate change on transport infrastructure in the region and in the Bahamas. Then I'm going to talk about what are the 4 main things that we need to do in general from a social point of view when you think about making transport more resilient. Third, I'll talk about the projects that are engaged in the region in general. We have response analysis, which looks at the analysis of risks. And then the Bahamas, we have an airport and we have a cooperation. I'll talk a little bit about those. And if I run out of time during the Q&A, I'll elaborate more.
Okay, well, right. And I will